minute scratches or pits along a facet junction. It gives the junction a white or fuzzy appearance. Abrasions usually occur because people handle and store jewelry carelessly, and the pieces rub against each other. Abrasions can also occur when one diamond rubs against another in a stone paper. When that happens, the diamond might be described as paper worn. 126. Mitchell Morgia. Nicks typically occur at the girdle edge, where the diamond might be exposed to wear, both by John Koivalajaya. The scratches are visible on this table left, but they might be easier to find when viewed through the opposite side of the diamond right. Blemishes, or external clarity characteristics, can be caused by wear or the cutting process, or be a result of crystal structure. They all have one thing in common: they don't appear to have depth when you view them at 10x magnification. A nick NCK is a small notch on a facet junction, usually along the girdle edge or at the culate. It's smaller and shallower than a chip and has no readily apparent depth at 10x. Blemishes caused by wear. A scratch, SCR, is a thin, dull, white line across the diamond's surface. It can be either curved or straight. Blemishes introduced in the cutting process. An extra facet, EF, is a facet that's not required by the cutting style. Though extra facets might occur anywhere on the diamond, they're most often located at the girdle. Cutters sometimes intentionally place tiny extra facets near the girdle edge on the pavilion to determine polishing directions for the star facets and upper and lower half facets. Those extra facets might be removed, or they might remain after fashioning is complete. A cutter might also intentionally add an extra facet to remove or reduce an inclusion. This helps retain weight by avoiding the alternative, which would be to repolish the regular facet. Cutters can unintentionally create extra facets by making tiny facet adjustment errors or by using an out-of-level polishing wheel. An extra facet could also be the remains of a window. A window is a facet that a cutter polishes on the rough before cutting begins, to make it easier for the cutter to see inside a rough diamond. Don't confuse extra facets with additional facets. Cutters can place extra facets without regard for the diamond's symmetry, but they usually finding and identifying clarity characteristics. Both by Eric Welch Jaya. No matter how careful diamond cutters are, the process might result in blemishes on a diamond. 127. Diamonds and diamond grading 10.
John Koivulajaya.
Unlike naturals, extra facets are always flat, smooth, and polished. Vincent Krakojaya. It's difficult to polish a perfectly smooth surface when the facet is very close to the octahedral crystal plane. This causes lizard skin.
John Koivulajaya.
Mitchell Morgia. Polish lines can be white left or transparent right. They never cross facet junctions. This stone's burnt facets are reflected on its other side. This heat damage probably occurred during polishing. Place additional facets symmetrically, relative to a standard cutting style. Additional facets are never considered blemishes. 128. A feature that resembles an extra facet but lacks a distinct or straight facet junction is called a polish mark. There is very little difference in angle between a polish mark and its bordering facet. Lizard skin else is a wavy or bumpy area on the surface of a polished diamond. It occurs when the cutter polishes too close to the octahedral plane or parallel to it. Polishing sometimes leaves fine, tiny, parallel grooves and ridges called polish lines PL. They can occur on any facet, but they don't cross facet junctions. Polish lines on adjacent facets run in different directions on diamonds. They're transparent or white and can vary from heavy to faint. Although they're on the surface, polish lines are usually easier to see if you look for them through the stone from the opposite side. Registered sign. Page 133 of 170. D&DG Book 2. Assignment 711. 2019. Burn BRN is a hazy surface area that results from excessive heat applied during polishing, or occasionally from a jeweler's torch. A surface burn caused by excessive heat at the location where the dop touches the diamond is referred to more specifically as a dop burn dop. Polishing a stone too fast can burn facets near the one being polished, creating a clouded or frosted look, like a whitish film. You might see burn on part or all of any facet. Like polish lines, it's often easier to see from the opposite side of the stone. A rough girdle. RG indicates the irregular, pitted, or granular surface of a bruted girdle. A well-finished bruted girdle looks smooth and waxy, with a frosted glass texture. A rough girdle looks coarse, like the surface of a sugar cube. Mitchell Morgia. This diamond's laser manufacturing remnants appear across the natural's surface and along the girdle. A pit is a small opening that usually looks like a tiny white dot. Pits usually result when pinpoint inclusions are pulled from the diamond during the polishing process. A laser manufacturing remnant. LMR is a characteristic created during a laser manufacturing process, usually marking or sawing, that remains on the surface of a finished diamond. When it appears as a surface groove and shows no depth at 10x, it's considered a blemish. Sometimes, the laser penetrates into the diamond, causing an internal or surface-reaching fracture. The fracture is considered an inclusion. Blemishes resulting from crystal structure. A natural N is a portion of the rough diamond's original surface, or skin, that remains on a fashioned stone. Because a natural is a remnant of the original crystal, it sometimes shows growth marks, and it often has an uneven surface. When a cutter leaves a natural in place to save weight, it's considered a sign of efficient cutting. Key concepts. A natural can be considered a sign of efficient cutting, finding and identifying clarity characteristics.
John Koivulajaya.
A rough girdle has a coarse, granular look. This diamond's rough girdle also has two naturals. Gary Roskin. Pits occur during cutting, so they might be accompanied by drag lines. This diamond also has a large scratch. 129. Registered sign. D&DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Diamonds and Diamond Grading 10, K. Morrow. Naturals might display growth marks such as trigons. 130. Naturals can display parallel grooves above or, more rarely, cubic depressions left. You might see naturals anywhere on a diamond, but they're usually on or near the girdle, most often on the pavilion side. There might be two on directly opposite sides of a stone. If the rough that the stone was cut from was symmetrical, there might be four naturals in opposing pairs. People sometimes confuse naturals with extra facets. However, extra facets have smooth, polished surfaces, while naturals show growth features. Surface graining. SG consists of one or more transparent lines on the surface of a finished diamond. It's a visible indication of irregularities in D&DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019.
Concoibulagia.
Naturals can occur at the culate, but this isn't very common.
Concoibulagia.
Because diamonds are sewn along the cubic crystal plane, some might have cubic graining on the table above. If present, it might be easier to see through the pavilion right, the diamond's crystal structure. Surface graining is related to internal graining and might appear in association with it. Where grain lines exist, the polish might be better on one side of a grain line than on the other. Unlike polish lines, surface graining might change direction within a facet, might cross facet junctions, or it might run in a direction different from polish lines. Surface graining is almost impossible to remove because it's part of a diamond's distorted crystal structure. Finding and identifying clarity characteristics. Vincent Krakojaya. Surface graining can look like creases in cellophane. 131. D&DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Diamonds and Diamond Grading 10, Mitchell Morjaya. An inscription that is confined to the surface when viewed at 10x has no effect on clarity. This diamond is laser inscribed with its GIA report number for identification. 132, Vincent Krakojaya. This is a poly-rendered laser inscription. It has depth visible at 10x and is therefore considered a surface-reaching inclusion. Other features. Mitchell Morjaya. An inscription, such as this one, might be totally enclosed within the diamond. When it is, it's considered an internal inclusion. A diamond can have other features that are visible at 10x magnification, but have no effect on the clarity grade. For example, a diamond might be inscribed with text, numbers, or even a logo for purposes of identification or branding. Inscriptions are typically applied with a laser and are located on the girdle, but other methods are possible. An inscription has no effect on clarity regardless of its location, as long as it's confined to the surface when viewed at 10x. An inscription with depth visible at 10x or that is totally enclosed within the diamond is considered an inclusion and can affect the clarity grade. D&DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Robert Weldon Jaya. Briarlet cut diamonds are often drilled for stringing or placement into a mounting.
Concoibulagia.
The linear grooves, or setting channels, along this princess cut diamond's pavilion will help secure it in an invisible setting. You often see drill holes on briarlets or faceted diamond beads. Sometimes a manufacturer adds surface grooves to secure a diamond in an invisible mounting, one without prongs. These mounting features are considered part of the diamond's fashioning process. Unless they damage the diamond with a feather, cavity, or other characteristic, they do not affect clarity. Clarity characteristics are useful for many reasons. They can help identify an individual diamond because no two diamonds ever have the same characteristics in the same locations, and they can help you determine a diamond's clarity grade and value. Now that you've learned about the clarity characteristics you'll see in diamonds, the next assignment will help you put your observations together to determine a clarity grade. Finding and identifying clarity characteristics. 133. Page 138 of 170, D&DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Diamonds and Diamond Grading 10, 134, Key Concepts. Clarity grading is one of the most important aspects of the GIA diamond grading system. Clarity characteristics determine a stone's clarity grade, help set its value, and help identify it. Your first impression of a diamond's face-up appearance should strongly influence its clarity grade. If a trained grader can't see a clarity characteristic at 10x, it doesn't affect the clarity grade. Use abbreviations to note inclusions and blemishes. You must disclose the presence of laser drilling. A natural can be considered a sign of efficient cutting. Accurate clarity grading depends on a careful and systematic examination of the diamond. Key terms: blemish, clarity characteristic that's confined to the surface of a polished gemstone. Clarity characteristic, internal or external feature of a gemstone that helps determine its quality and establish its identity. Dark field illumination, lighting of a diamond from the side against a black, non-reflective background. Depth of field, the distance that's clear and sharp above and below a point you focus on with a magnifier. Face arc, a position that orients a gemstone's crown facets and table toward the viewer. Feather, a trade term for any break in a diamond. Flash effect, a flash of changing color seen in a fracture-filled diamond when you look parallel to the filled inclusion and rock the diamond back and forth under magnification. Fracture filling, treatment that involves injecting a molten glass substance into a diamond's surface reaching feathers or laser drill holes. Inclusion, clarity characteristic totally enclosed in a polished gemstone or extending into it from the surface. D and DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Finding and Identifying Clarity Characteristics, Diamond Clarity Characteristics in brief, Internal Inclusions Crystal XTL, a mineral crystal contained in a diamond, needle, NDL, a long, thin crystal that looks like a tiny rod at 10x, pinpoint, PP, a very small included crystal that looks like a tiny dot at 10x, cloud CLD, many tightly grouped pinpoints that might be too small to distinguish individually at 10x but together have a hazy appearance, internal inclusions resulting from crystal structure, twinning wisp, TW, a series of pinpoints, clouds, or crystals that forms in a diamond's growth plane, associated with crystal distortion and twinning planes, internal graining, IG, lines, angles, or curves that might appear whitish, colored, or reflective or affect transparency at 10x, caused by irregularities in crystal growth, grain center GC, a type of internal graining that consists of a small, concentrated area of crystal distortion, can be white or dark, and might appear thread-like or pinpoint-like, surface-reaching inclusions feather FTR, general trade term for a break in a gemstone, often white, and feathery in appearance, edge channel EC, an angular opening that starts at the surface and extends into the stone, often with striations perpendicular to its length, bearded girdle, BG, minute or minor feathers that run perpendicular to a bruted girdle, referred to more generally as feathers in the girdle, bruise, BR, a tiny area of impact accompanied by very small, root-like feathers visible at 10x magnification, typically occurs at a facet junction, knot, K, an included diamond crystal that extends to the surface after fashioning, patch of color patch, naturally occurring radiation stain left on a polished diamond, typically a blemish, but can be an inclusion if it extends into the stone when viewed at 10x, chip CH, a shallow opening caused by damage to the stone's surface, typically occurs at a girdle edge, facet junction, or culate, cavity, cav, an opening on the surface that occurs when part of a feather breaks away, or when a crystal drops out or is forced out, typically during polishing, indented natural in, a portion of the rough's original surface, or skin, that dips below the polished diamond's surface at 10x, 135. D and DG Book 2, Assignments 711, 2019, Diamonds and Diamond Grading 10, Inclusions caused by Treatment Laser Drill Hole, LDH, a tiny, surface-reaching tunnel produced by a laser, light beam, internal laser drilling, ILD, laser drilling within a diamond that doesn't reach the surface, blemishes caused by wear nick NCK, a small notch on a facet junction with no readily apparent depth, at 10x, usually along the girdle edge or at the culate, abrasion, ABR, a series of minute scratches or pits along the facet junctions of a fashioned diamond, gives the edges a white or fuzzy appearance, scratch, SCR, a thin, dull white line across the diamond's surface, shows no apparent depth at 10x. Blemishes introduced in the cutting process. Extra facet, EF, a small facet that's not required by the cutting style, placed without regard for the diamond's symmetry, most often found near the girdle. Polish mark, a feature that resembles an extra facet but lacks a distinct or straight facet junction. Lizard skin LS, wavy or bumpy area on the surface of a polished diamond. Polish lines PL, fine, parallel grooves and ridges left by polishing, can occur on any facet but do not cross facet junctions. Transparent or white, burn BRN. Hazy surface area that results from excessive heat during polishing or occasionally from a jeweler's torch. Dop burn dop, a surface burn caused by excessive heat at the location where the dop touches the diamond. Rough girdle, RG, irregular, pitted, or granular surface of a bruted girdle. Pit, a small opening that looks like a tiny white dot at 10x. Blemishes resulting from crystal structure natural N, a portion of the original surface, or skin, of a rough diamond, left on a fashioned stone, usually on or near the girdle. Surface graining, SG, similar to internal graining, except it appears on the surface, results from irregularities in the crystal structure. 136. D and DG Book 2, Assignments 711.